The kid started screaming and simply would not stop. Everyone was watching the scene unfold in public. Then Mom did this incredible thing right there. These are real public moments and where everything goes wrong and somehow gets even worse. Stay with me until the very end of this. The last one? Nobody recovered. Story 1, the sit-down move. Picture a kid screaming in a store. It was a complete and full meltdown in the store. All of the people around them were just staring. Mom pauses for a long and thoughtful moment. Then she slowly sits on the floor next to the kid. Then there was a moment of total and utter silence. The kid stops crying and looks completely confused. He asks his mom, "What are you doing?" Mom simply says, "I am joining you on the floor." People watching were trying their best not to laugh. The toddler just stands up and starts brushing off their clothes. He says, "Let's go." Dad asks with a look of disbelief, "That worked?" Mom says confidently, "Apparently it did work." Story 2 is about the grocery store rule break. Dad says, "Don't touch anything." The kid says, "Okay." Immediately after that, he touches everything. Dad says, "I just said," but the kid replies, "I'm just looking." Dad yells out, "You are actually holding it?" The kid doesn't blink and says, "I'm looking with my hands." Wait, the other shoppers simply lose it laughing. Dad was left there feeling totally defeated by the chaos. Story 3 is about the public snack negotiation. The kid points and says, "I want some candy." Mom says, "No." The kid gets even louder, "I want candy." Everyone in the store is starting to turn and look. Mom stays very calm and says, "Not today." But Mom knows the secret to the situation. She just walks away and keeps on going. The kid stops and looks around to see they are alone. And then the kid quickly runs after Mom down the aisle. Negotiation over. The boundary has been set. Okay, stay with us because we are just getting started. This next story coming up gets very awkward. Public chaos always turns into a great story. If you've been there, subscribe because we break down parenting science every week. Stay tuned for part 2 of this series right now. Okay, this next one got very awkward. Story 4, the wrong person wave. Mom waves at someone across the store. They don't wave back and just keep walking along. Mom keeps waving and smiling. Dad says, "That's not for you." Mom slowly and awkwardly lowers her hand as they walk. The kid asks, "Why did you do that?" Mom says, "We are going to leave this place right now." We've all been there. That moment when the social fabric just tears. Story 5 is restaurant chaos. Parents say, "Be quiet in the restaurant." The kid simply nods their head very seriously indeed. 2 minutes later, everything changes. The kid is yelling, "This food is weird." Everyone in the restaurant turns their head to look at them. Mom leans in and says, "Please use your inside voice now." The kid shouts, "But this is my inside voice, Mother!" Dad puts his face down. Quick pause if you've ever thought about turning moments like this into content. There are free AI tools right now that can help you create stories, visuals, even characters. No experience needed, and some have limited time free access. All right, back to the chaos. Story 6 is about the loud truth moment. Mom is talking to another parent and says, "He has been so well behaved today." The kid immediately says, "No, I have not been." There was a very long and awkward moment of total silence. The other parent just stands there and smiles very awkwardly. Mom says, "We're working on it." The kid says, "You said I yelled earlier." Mom says, "Okay, go over there." The truth really does come out of the mouths of babes. If these moments sound familiar, subscribe for more daily life breakdowns. Part 3 is coming up right now. All right, we're entering the final stretch of public chaos. Story 7 is about the escalator panic. The kid completely freezes at the top of the escalator. A crowd starts building up behind them as they wait. Dad says, "Come on, we really have to go." The kid points and says, "It's moving and I'm scared." Dad nods and says, "Yes, that is how it works." The kid replies, "I don't trust it one bit." People are waiting and starting to get very frustrated now. Mom says, "Just pick him up and let's go now." The kid screams at the top of his lungs, "No!" Everyone is watching the struggle unfold right there in the mall. Eventually, Dad just carries him up the escalator. The kid keeps screaming for the entire ride up. All right, this next one. Every parent has felt this. Story 8 is about the parking lot escape. The kid refuses to get into the car and stays put. Mom says firmly, "Get in the car right now." The kid immediately turns and runs away fast. Dad is left chasing him across the lot for a while. The kid is laughing the entire time while being chased. People are watching the chase happen from their own cars. Dad finally catches him and brings him back safely. The kid says, "That was actually really fun for me." Dad sighs and says, "Not for me, it wasn't fun at all." Story 9 is about the phone embarrassment. Mom's phone starts ringing very loudly in her purse. It is a very loud and incredibly weird ringtone. Absolutely everyone in the area hears the sound. The kid asks, "Why is your phone making that sound?" Mom scrambles to turn the volume down as fast as possible. Dad is just standing there laughing at her. The kid says, "That is so embarrassing for you, Mom." Mom says, "We are definitely changing that ringtone today." Story 10 is the final and absolute best story. The kid starts a massive meltdown in the checkout line. The crying is getting louder and louder by the second. People in the line are staring at them. Dad says, "Let's just leave everything and go right now." Mom says, "Wait, just give me a second to handle this." Mom kneels down to eye level with the screaming kid. She uses a very soft and extremely calm voice. She asks, "Tell me what is really wrong right now." The kid pauses and stops crying for a long second. The kid says, "I wanted to push the cart myself." Mom says, "Okay, next time you push it." The kid smiles and says, "Okay, it's a deal." And just like that, the crying simply stops. People watching are absolutely and truly surprised. Dad asks, "Wait, that actually worked so well?" Mom says, "Sometimes you just really have to listen." And somehow, public chaos always turns into a story. If you laughed or felt this, subscribe to us now. Otherwise, your next grocery trip might look like this. Follow us for more real-life parenting moments here. And good luck to all of you out there.